Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Happy Tuesday. Hope it's a good one. Hope it's off to a good start. At the very least, Lucas is back there making it happen. Good morning, bud.
Good morning.
Better than yesterday?
Better than yesterday.
Okay.
Time heals all wounds.
Glad to hear it.
Not really.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join in, if you want to be positive, if you want to be back there sulking like Lucas, you can do that as well. F&M Bank Chat, full of sulkers on a regular basis. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch if you would like to live stream this very radio show and all four radio shows and all kinds of good stuff that the Zone has to offer on a digital basis. So, one of the best backup quarterback moments of the year last night, first half a slog. I think that's the approach that I'm going to start taking to these primetime games. I'm just going to watch the second half because I'll know by the time that I get there whether or not I want to stick with the game, and whether it's Thursday night football between the Chargers and the Raiders, no thank you, or something like last night where the Eagles are struggling on offense. A couple of great plays in the fourth quarter by Seattle defensive back Julian Love and Drew Lock with a play call that he says he's going to remember for the rest of his life. In a post-game interview with Lisa Salters, he spoke on this yesterday. Is that something that we can go to here?
No.
Okay. We'll get to that later.
Certain things are not cooperating.
I think just when you say stuff like that, just picture you back there like fighting with wires that have come to life and are trying to drag you down, drown you in whatever the hell is going on back there for 3 hours every day. So we'll see if we can get that at some point. Ricky is making requests because not only are you watching that game last night, if you are watching that game last night for the purposes of gambling or just football or otherwise, but the Titans' next opponent is the Seattle Seahawks, who got themselves back to 500 and kept themselves alive in the NFC postseason picture. So now we have the Lisa Salters audio with Drew Lock, who went out there and won a football game.
Take us back to the touchdown pass to Jackson. Just what was the play call? Take me through it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll remember that play call for the rest of my life, but we're breaking the huddle. I knew Jax had the one-on-one. Good reminder from Shane in the headset. I said, hey, Jax, if you're one-on-one, I'm throwing you this pill. Sure enough, gave us a one-on-one look. Corner was soft. Jax hit him with some speed. Back pylon, back box throw, came down with it.
Again, Drew, we can see the emotion on your face. We can hear it in your voice. Can you just describe what you're feeling in your heart right now?
Yeah. It's so hard. It's so hard to describe the feeling of, not playing for so long, or at least what feels like a really long time to me. And then you sit there, you watch games, you wonder, can I do this still? I haven't been out there on the field. That's the human nature of it. You get back out there last week, I'm like, you know what? I'm the man still. I can go do this. And then you got another test this week where I didn't know if I was going to play or not. Sure enough, ended up playing. We're playing the Eagles tonight. And the boys around me rallied tonight. And it just, gosh, it feels so good. It feels so good. I'm so proud of everybody tonight.
Congratulations to you.
That's awesome. Am I a Drew Lock fan now?
Yeah, that was a great interview by Lisa Salters.
So here's the thing. We didn't know who was starting at quarterback until basically he trotted out there and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman came on the television broadcast and said Drew Lock will start at quarterback last night. When's the last time somebody's actually been able to keep information down that way? I saw a clip from the Manning cast because they, of course, were doing this game, Eli and Peyton, on ESPN2, and they had Christian McCaffrey on kind of talking about, Drew Lock looks at a sink here. Wouldn't you like to see this, that, and the other for a quarterback? And Peyton's kind of getting on the Seahawks a little bit because he's saying, well, they just told him he's starting 20 minutes ago. Seem a little bothered by that as a former starting quarterback himself. And then they decided to blame it on Schefter for not giving Drew Lock enough time to prepare himself by breaking the news, because Peyton said, Schefter knew that I was getting cut from the Colts before I did. And Christian McCaffrey said Schefter knew that I was getting traded from the Panthers before I did. And for, say, in some form or fashion, miraculously, Pete Carroll was able to keep it under wraps. So you had that. It's a little bit of a throwback. I can't remember the last time that one of the information guys didn't actually have it, especially around a quarterback situation.
Would we be too gullible to think that they actually did not know who was going to start until that moment?
So I think there was like 3 minutes, but so Schefter said, and you can take this for however you want to, but maybe about 5 minutes before Joe Buck and Troy Aikman said it, Schefter had a tweet saying signs are pointing towards Drew Lock. So I'm sure he had an idea. I'm sure he felt pretty good about it. If he's being responsible, he's not going to report it until he's got it 100% locked up, and so he didn't. But I thought that element of it was fun. And then, of course, the way that they went out and won it. Julian Love, again, 2 picks in the fourth quarter. Had a phenomenal game himself. And Drew Lock out there slinging the pill. If you're open, I'm going to get you this pill. I love that.
Thought for a moment after that opening Eagles drive that we were going to have the Jalen Hurts flu game. And it didn't quite happen that way.
So he came out. And they talked about this. His streak of availability is awesome. Like, I know Philadelphia fans are not happy today, and that they're if ever you tried to or avoided a moral victory conversation, it would be with that particular fan base, who, by the way, is completely toxic, and I love them. I love them for it. It's horrifying. Some of the stuff I saw flying around on the internet last night for a football team that was just in the Super Bowl last week and still already has double-digit wins. Anyway, Jalen Hurts comes out and has like a 13 or 15-yard carry on his first snap, and you're like, all right, I guess he's going to give it a go. We'll see how it plays out. He struggles throughout the course of the evening. And for the Eagles, who are 10-4, it's not just a matter of Jalen Hurts and his kind of up and downs this year, because there has been that, but the defense has been a mess in Philadelphia. They led the league in sacks last year. They were the best pressure defense in the sport when they went to the Super Bowl. They had to change play calling responsibilities, but not titles. Sean Desai, who is the defensive coordinator, still technically the defensive coordinator, but Matt Patricia was given full control over the defense yesterday. Nick Sirianni being asked questions about that. So you see all these things kind of eroding around the Eagles. And then there's this tweet from an outlet called Bleeding Green Nation. So it's a fan site, and fans are going to be more reactive more often than not, but this is pretty, I think, reflective of how the Eagles fan base is feeling right now. They've been putting out good work for some time. It's just a tweet at the end of the game that says Jalen Wentz,
Wentz,
as in Carson Wentz. So that is a form of criticism. Then they allow fans to kind of react in the comment section with them about a variety of different things, to which somebody replies about Nick Sirianni, I'd consider the head coach. I'd consider firing Nick at season's end. I'd fire the offensive coordinator on the tarmac. Hurts' contract is shaky right now. And they respond, this is an outlet that has sources and has done reporting on the organization. I don't think it will happen, talking about the Sirianni situation, but the first sentence is somewhat interesting and something that I've thought about for a few weeks now. I'll explain. Howie Roseman built a talented offense with a window that probably closes after next season. That's 3 straight weeks. They haven't broken 20 points. I can't imagine that Patricia wasn't influenced at all from folks above Nick's head. Okay. I didn't think they'd let Doug go like they did, and it's apples to oranges, but the front office ownership clearly steps in when they feel a situation is out of hand. Then it's just followed up with an article that says the Eagles are frauds. I love Eagles fans.
Now, Sirianni's calling plays, right?
Yes.
He's the first head coach in Eagles history, I believe, to make the postseason in each of his first 3 seasons. He's definitely the winningest head coach in Eagles history at this point in his first 3 seasons.
They are guaranteed. They are in the playoffs officially. They have already, they have for several weeks clinched their spot in the postseason. And despite not having broken 20 points in the last couple of weeks, the way that that's being pointed out, they keep winning these games. So make of it what you will.
They have a very favorable slate to finish out the year. Philly hosts the Giants, they host the Cardinals, and they go to the Giants.
Oh.
Compared to the Niners, who are obviously at the top of the NFC right now, who host the Ravens. That's going to be awesome on Christmas Day, Monday Night Football. Go to Washington and then host the Rams, and the Cowboys, who go to Miami, host Detroit, and go to Washington.
So they've lost 3 straight, Philadelphia has. They are 4-3 since trading for Kevin Byard, and since A.J. Brown told Kevin Byard, you're a winner now, we're getting ready to win. Well, you just one win over 500. Not to, listen, no shots at KB or A.J. Go out there and win the damn thing if you're capable of it. But life comes at you fast is the moral of this story. And Eagles fans are in a full-on state of panic because they feel that their window is closing with a much better football team than I think that anybody would trade for in a heartbeat, a situation that any fan base would trade for in a heartbeat, except for this one, because they are enraged by anything less than, just short of perfection. They boo drive by drive. It's an intense and insanely critical environment, which, by the way, continues to hold them to that standard, I think. Howie Roseman and the ownership there understand that they have a certain expectation, or that they are held to a certain expectation. And I'm holding that up against between what the Titans' messaging has been around trying to get better and making some changes and all these different things, and how completely different the standard or the level of expectation is at a place like here or in Philadelphia. You bring up Christmas Day football. I'm scared for what Christmas Eve is going to look like at Nissan Stadium this week. I'm going to be there. I don't know who else is going to be there. Seahawks going to be there. Titans players are going to be there. I don't know who else can be at that stadium.
Was last night, and Drew Luck might be there. We'll see how Geno is. But was last night the best backup quarterback moment of the season so far? There's been a lot.
No, it's Levis.
Levis in Miami?
No, it's Levis in his debut.
Oh, the Falcons?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Oilers uniforms.
Because guy had a couple of moments where, okay, maybe that pass could have been picked off or something like that. Like the footwork wasn't great, but the dude came out and just shelled him.
Flacco has been a pretty fun story.
Flacco's up there. And by the way, he should have lost that game. Should have lost. That Hail Mary situation for the Bears is one of the dumbest plays I've seen. By the way, to allow him to get back into that game after throwing 3 interceptions, should have been 4 after I saw some of that game back, because I'm going to talk to Cosell about a variety of different teams today on the podcast. But
if anyone needs a submission for Oh No coming up at 10:45, that's one, Mooney, and the way he could not hang on to that Hail Mary. That's brutal. But it does speak to an interesting conversation with the Jets right now, who have just collapsed in on themselves. And you can easily point it to not having Aaron Rodgers and having to cycle through. Now Trevor Siemian's going to start, and Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. Look at the Browns. They lost their guy, and they might be playing their best football right now. Joe Flacco might be playing better than Deshaun Watson has at any point this year.
I don't think that's up for debate. So I think Joe Flacco has been playing quarterback better than anybody that they've started this year.
So how should Jets fans feel about their situation? Is Robert Saleh blameless when they have floundered? Yes, because Aaron Rodgers went down, but half the league has lost their starter, and not everybody's suffering nearly as much as the Jets. And the Jets have a pretty damn good roster around the quarterback position for the most part.
No, but listen, you've just, and we've gone over here, but this is a very important point to make. The Jets' situation is more dire than any of these other teams that are floundering that we're talking about. More dire than the Titans, more dire than the Eagles fans think that they have it, more dire than anyone. Do you know why? They have all but turned over ownership to a 40-year-old quarterback who all anybody can talk about is how happy he is. Of course he is. They let him do whatever he wants. Jets fans are going to be sick when they keep Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. You know who's not going to be sick? The guy who took all the money from those two to come play quarterback for them, because he's going to want them to stay there. The Jets have ceded control of their organization to Aaron Rodgers, who does not seem like somebody who you might want in that situation. Ask Green Bay. So there's a bunch of teams that are trying to figure it out. That Philadelphia is one of them is hilarious to me. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Mike Vrabel spent a lot of time answering questions about offensive play calling yesterday. You'll hear from the head coach on that coming up next. Welcome back. Titans did not play well in regulation, didn't necessarily handle things well in the overtime period of Sunday's game against the Texans. 19-16 was the loss. Eliminated them officially from postseason contention. Them and the New York Jets got knocked out over the weekend, and a lot of questions about the offense, about the offensive play calling, the decision-making as far as what they were doing from the first half to the second. Did they go hyper-restrictive on the quarterback after he threw probably the worst interception that he's thrown? That the worst interception Will Levis has thrown? I think so.
Out of the three now, right? There's three?
Yeah.
I mean, let's go through them. Pittsburgh.
Trailing late. He's just trying to get it to the end zone. Quan Alexander comes out of his eye line or out of his eyesight and picks the ball off. Game was out of hand on Thursday Night Football.
Pressing at the end of the game.
Sure.
And Tampa, right, was the second one.
Same situation. Trailing late, trying to get back in the game, trying to find ways to get the ball down the field, throw an interception. They're pressing. Beyond that, yeah, those two are explainable, and he did explain well, I think, to us what happened to him on that interception because, we played you some audio yesterday about him and DeAndre Hopkins kind of being a bit out of whack. Traylon Burks, obviously, getting opportunities, creating opportunities for himself, the offense creating opportunities for themselves. How much different a conversation are we having about Tim Kelly and the offense if Will Levis sees Traylon Burks streaking down the left side of the field? Does that make people want to keep Tim's job? I know it doesn't matter.
We still had this conversation after the Panthers game, and that was a win, right? Like fans have still had this conversation about sort of clamping things down offensively with a lead.
Sure, but when the quarterback misses the opportunities that are gifted to him, that are not conservative play calls, that's a shot play.
Yeah,
that's a shot play. Now, I'm not saying that it completely changes the tenor or they win the game afterwards. Like, I have no idea what happens if they hit that play. And it's a useless, I don't think it's completely useless exercise to point out that play and say, well, if the quarterback sees it, then are you as hell-bent for blood from your offensive coordinator today or Monday? The answer is probably no, but if Derrick Henry is still averaging 0.6 yards per carry, then maybe. I don't know. Mike Vrabel was asked about how the Titans went about this game plan, the amount of first down rushes that they attempted, not just with Derrick Henry, but with Tajay Spears, and whether that was a degree of stubbornness that was kind of keeping them from branching out.
Well, we don't ever want to be stubborn, but also knowing that, some of those things that allow us to gain yards downfield in the play pass game are also set up through that run game. And, so I don't think it's a stubbornness. We have to be balanced. We have to use those formations and those running plays, to set up some of those play passes down the field and, be able to, create good pockets for the quarterback so that they can deliver the football. So whoever's in there can step up and throw the ball downfield, like we did a couple times yesterday and that we have done, in the past. And then we'll have to just try to stay as balanced as possible and let those things marry with each other.
The offensive line got a makeover in the off season, and it hasn't necessarily.
You don't want to hear from Terry on the offensive line? What happened?
It's a separate question. We can. Would you like to?
No, it's okay. That's Mike Vrabel about whether it's a degree of stubbornness that caused them to kind of what felt like to us be hyper-conservative after Levis threw the pick. Now, we kind of wound our way through this discussion yesterday, right? Okay, what do you want them to do? When they had to drop back to pass, what happened?
In Miami. Or are you talking about
I'm talking about on Sunday. There are differences between Miami and what happened on Sunday.
7 sacks in the third, fourth quarter, and overtime.
Once they had to actually abandon the run, they got him killed back there. because they were not having their best day. Did you see, by the way, who the Texans picked up off of waivers?
Tier Tart. See ya in about 10 days.
That's right. That's unfortunate. I wonder if he will feel properly motivated then. That's a tough scene. So anyway, front had a good plan for a bad Titans offensive line. D'Amico Ryans had a good plan for a bad Titans offensive line. They snuffed out the run. They said, you can try and beat us down the field. They were not able to. Whether it was sacks that were allowed by the offensive line because of poor offensive line play, because there was plenty of that between Skoronski and Duncan in particular on Sunday, or because Levis didn't have his best day either. There were some sacks in there that I think are completely fair to attribute to the quarterback as he tries to make something out of nothing, to his credit. But they are stuck in this spot where I'm willing to hear that argument. I don't know if Titans fans are willing to hear any argument today about why the offense looks the way that it does. And I'm not sitting here trying to justify it to you. It's terrible because of mistakes that they have previously made that they are now currently paying for. They're paying for the sins they're paying for the sins of years past right now as far as the offensive line and the negligence that has kind of led it to devolve into this state. Plus, we're in December. Injuries have happened. It was never supposed to look like this, but it does. So you gotta eat it. Do we think they're being stubborn if they're just trying to keep Levis upright? But they can't do it. Like, that they can't do it is one thing. Do we want to qualify it as stubbornness, the way that they're going about this game plan, if at the core of it is, hey, we can't drop him back that way?
It's easy to qualify it as that because that's just what you're seeing, right? Over and over, running into brick walls, 16 carries, 9 yards, 0.6 yards per carry. And we've talked about this, that the fan base has a very different outlook than the coaching staff, where the fan base says, let the kid play. Let the kid drop back 38 times a game. Let the kid sling it around, where the coaching staff is saying, we want to win games.
And also not get him killed.
Sure. But that's the place the fan base is in right now, where they're saying, hey, we know what this season is. It's gone. It's lost. Let's see what we have here. Whereas that's not how the coaching staff is going to think about it.
No, Randy Howard in the F&M Bank chat, and the phone lines are open, 615-737-1045. Do you accept that kind of response from Mike Vrabel yesterday about the way that the offensive game plans are playing themselves out here, where fans feel it is conservative, where the coaching staff is maintaining we're just trying to manage the situation as best we can? Again, that may not be acceptable to you, and that is completely fine. Randy Howard says it's a cop-out answer from Mike Vrabel.
Well, Vrabel went into more detail. If the contention is the run game is there, it needs to be established to set up other things in the offense. And the question yesterday was, okay, what is that?
Biting on that, or are they having a fine time stopping the run with what they have up front? Did it establish anything for you to do in play action?
Well, we hit a strike behind the linebackers, late in the game to Hopkins. So it must have done something. I mean, there was.
Was that trade-off worth it?
Again, we didn't win the game, and you have to understand that there's some of these play pass protections are also advantageous to allowing the quarterback to move the spot, to change his launch location, and give us an opportunity to protect, but also still run a route that we think is going to be good versus their coverage.
What's the trade-off there in terms of the frequent conversations we had about not being behind the sticks, when out of all of those first downs, you're coming out generally at 2nd and 10 or worse?
Well, that was yesterday. We've done well, and again, previous weeks of our average gain on first down, whether that be running or throwing it, try to stay as balanced as possible, and also try to do, possess the football, try to find ways to win a football game, and it didn't work out yesterday.
Okay. So that's his position. That's what he's maintaining that they're trying to set up, and There are examples of them doing that in this game that he's citing and saying there's not that much else that we were able to get done, but here is what we are trying to set up on a more consistent basis. You saw some of those plays that when he gets up to the podium and says, nobody played well enough to win the football game, but there was some good stuff in there. Do you think that bothers fans more? Because I get what he's saying there. Like, here, we're going to show them the bad plays. Here are the good plays that we have to show them too, so that they can understand what they did right on this play and X, Y, and Z and build off of it.
Yes, but he's also in a place where there's nothing you could say.
No.
Right? What's the one thing that fans would want to hear?
That he got fired.
I mean, we're terrible at this point. We just want to see if maybe we can get a top 5 pick. Like, that's never going to come out of a coach's mouth. And that's the only thing fans want to hear when you're sitting here at 5-9.
Well, so what's the difference? Staley's fired already. And after the game, now I'm not saying that their situations are similar. They're not at all.
Yeah. Staley has never had a sample size of success.
No.
In L.A.
But Brandon Staley, after that game, right, is asked the question, do you think you're going to be the coach here tomorrow? He said, tomorrow being, Friday. And he said, I don't know. Do you think, and then the follow-up, do you think you deserve to be the coach here? And he says, yes, because I know what I've done here, yada, yada. Immediately, once you hear him starting to cite his resume, like, that's a dead man walking. Mm-hmm. You've just, all the reasons that you're answering this question about all the reasons why you should keep your job. No. There's blood in the water and the sharks are circling. Your time here is done. Thank you for your service. Nobody's asked Mike that question yet. It was after Jacksonville where they got just run the bleep over, where he was asked for the first time about, did he think he was coaching for his job? Not, why does he think he needs to be the coach here still? We're not to that point yet. I don't know if fans think that we should be. I think there's probably if not a majority, a loud minority that are calling for those kind of things, if not his outright firing. And again, like I said, I don't think he's guaranteed safe, especially when the quarterback is hurt, and that is the one thing that you are now at this point in your career tasked with most protecting. But if they're trying to and it's still not working, then I don't know what to tell fans here other than, hey, give it 3 weeks and you can flush all this down the toilet and we'll move on with our day and we'll see if they can't do better next time. Like, I can't, we obviously, for reasons of programming, cannot do that. But also, I'm sitting here trying to help them find solutions, and I don't know what to offer them right now.
Yeah, there's nothing to turn to right now.
Well, but that's not acceptable.
Right, of course it's not.
That's completely unacceptable.
Yeah, 5-9 is also unacceptable.
No, sure. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Dylan in Dixon County is next.
Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I just had a question. I mean, I understand this whole season's checked out. Everybody's kind of checked out. But it seemed like Derek was, in his interview, checked out of the Titans in general. Like, he sounded like he just didn't plan on coming back at all next year. And I still feel like he's got a lot left if he's got a line with him.
Based on what are you inferring that?
It's just kind of how he said he was just trying to get through this last 3 weeks and not focus on anything else. I don't know. It's just not like Derek to seem like he just doesn't look forward to the future with this team. And I understand his contract situation and everything coming up, and I understand that he kind of has to keep that mentality of he's going to get what he's earned, and he definitely should. But I just feel like we need to sign him, man. He's still got plenty in the tank. We just got to get an offensive line with him.
What do you want to hear from him? I mean, hell, I'm just trying to get through the next 3 weeks, aren't you? Like, I don't know what. I don't necessarily, and like to Derek at the podium, I thought that was one of Derek's better days at the podium. You know what I'm saying? And Dylan, I'm not being critical of your perspective here because I don't know how often you're watching his media availabilities and how much body language reading you're doing and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily understand what you want him to say.
I guess nothing really. I'm just
okay.
Sorry.
No. Listen. I that's okay. I'm not mad at you. I'm just curious. I follow-ups. That's all. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. What in sports made you say, oh no? We'll take some more phone calls. We'll get into our submissions. I'm sure some of you have some. That's next. Today is a good day. The sun is out. Morale is high. I don't know if it should be. I don't know if it shouldn't be. Either way, we're having a good time. We're going to get back to your phone calls here in just a second. Many of you have thoughts about the last portion of our conversation involving the Tennessee Titans. Don't worry. We're going to get into a little bit of that here as well because it is time for the thing in sports made you say, oh no.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, no!
Oh no!
Oh, no!
Oh, no.
Oh yeah!
All right, so mine's three-pronged, and it all involves the Tennessee Titans. Lucas, I already gave away some of it. T.R. Tart signing with the Houston Texans yesterday. Oh, no. That's where we start. In fact, can I get the TikTok sound on this three-pronged Titans-level oh, no attack? T.R. Tart signing with the Texans. Oh, no. Thank you. The second, I know I'm asking you a lot back there. Oh, my God, Jonathan Schaefer's back there. Why are you here? Get out.
Schaefer making a cameo today.
It's good to see you. So this is from Wes on Broadway at Titans Stats regarding the Titans left tackle situation. So do you want to take a guess? A starting caliber left tackle, maybe this would take too long, that has given up. Don't come in here and hug me. I'll fight you. No, no. Out. Get out.
Oh,
the
that's
Coyote
great.
smelled better than him.
This is how we get you fired. A bum rush hug forcing an expletive on the air.
Yeah, that was close.
That I do not dump.
That made me say, oh, no. Anyway, Orlando Brown has allowed 50 pressures this season, the left tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. The most sacks allowed by a left tackle this season, per Pro Football Focus, is 11 with Mekhi Becton. Sacks and pressures allowed at left tackle by Andre Dillard, Jalen Duncan, Dylan Radins, and NPF combined 76 pressures and 20 sacks. Oh, no. Thank you. Finally, fewest yards from scrimmage gained for a player with 20-plus touches in a game since 1948. Derrick Henry, 10 yards on 20 touches versus the Texans. Eddie Price, 15 yards on 20 touches versus the New York Yankees. 11-4-1951. Floyd Little, 21 yards on 20 touches versus the Falcons in 1972. Blech.
Not great.
Oh, God.
Not great company.
It looks worse every time I read stuff like that.
My oh no of the weekend is in Washington. I don't know if anybody has heard the name Cameron Cheeseman. I don't know if it's pronounced Cheeseman or Cheeseman. I hope it's pronounced Cheeseman. But anyway.
Like the Peter Man.
That is the now former, long snapper of the Washington Commander football Skins. Because Cameron Cheeseman said after the Commanders' loss on Sunday, apparently there's been a lot of long snapping issues in Washington. I'm not that familiar with the state of the special teams unit with the Washington Commanders, but apparently that's been a thing. And he was asked after the game on Sunday if he's worried that the Commanders will make a change at long snapper. He said, I've been worried all year. I haven't been performing the way I've been wanting to. Most places, I probably wouldn't be around still. The following day, the Washington Commanders have released long snapper Cameron Cheeseman. Dug his own grave.
That's tough. How often do you think the long snap? The oh-no is that the long snapper is receiving any media attention whatsoever.
Yeah, that's never a good thing.
It's a bad.
Although that's not true because Morgan Cox gets some of that attention, whether it's because Ryan Stonehouse is in here, showing up to the stadium wearing Morgan Cox T-shirts.
No, Lucas, because he's been in the NFL my entire life.
Yeah, because he's a stud. He's an all-pro caliber long snapper, one of the greatest long snappers of all time.
Yes, because he has been in the league so long. But it's not like, respectfully to Morgan, I say hi to Morgan in pregame when he's walking around out there for warm-ups, and that is about as much time as I spend talking to Morgan Cox during the week because I don't got to worry about Morgan Cox. Nobody has to worry about Morgan Cox.
But Cameron Cheeseman, it's probably Cheeseman, but I'm going to keep calling him Cheeseman. I don't know if you've seen this Cheeseman, but he's got a great mustache. It's a very thin mustache, but it's good for a long snapper. Basically saying, yeah, what a joke of an organization. Anybody else would have cut me by now. And then the next day, gone.
You can't be an eccentric long snapper. Like, the mustache is not what you can be known for. It should be your long snapping, not the mustache. Shameful. 615-737-1045 is how you join in the conversation. Perhaps you would like to react to some of those numbers that I just read you about the local professional football team. Perhaps you will have a similar visceral reaction. Let's see. Tim is in Bristol.
How you guys doing today?
Great.
Good to hear, and big fan of the show, by the way.
Thank you.
No problem. I just have a question for you guys. You guys go to the game. You guys see this firsthand. Is there just a lack of adjustments from this, from Kelly, from Vrabel? Because after like the first 2.5, 3 quarters of the game, Henry's running into a brick wall, and it doesn't seem like anything changes. And the same thing could be said for the Panthers game. Like the second half, it didn't really seem like there was too many changes, just kind of trying to coast out, a W. But isn't that falling on Vrabel and his coaching staff? Shouldn't that put him a little bit more, under the hot or on the hot seat? And that's it. That's all I have for you guys today.
Thanks for the call. So in-game adjustments or lack thereof, and listen, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not with them. While we are physically at the games in the press box, and a lot of times we have a better vantage point than Vrabel does during those games on different things that happen throughout the course of them, which is why Monday's press conferences are more important than Sunday immediately after, I think. They're doing the thing that they think is going to put them in the best position to succeed. Now, when they fail at that, it's easy to bury them. And by the way, right to bury them when it looks like this. The in-game adjustments, Levis walks us through them better than Tannehill or Mariota ever did. On what he's seeing, the mistakes he's making, he articulates them in a way that does not give away scheme necessarily, but kind of shows us or at least talks us through what's happening there. So I know that he is cognizant of adjustments that are being made with him when they bring him over to the sideline. They put the surface in front of him. Charles London and Tim Kelly, the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator over there, working through these things with him. So, we've heard that articulated to us. That it's not working, sure, that's on the coaching staff and on the players. But, it kind of comes back to the larger theme of they can't do anything about that. They're just bad. Robert is in Nashville next.
Hey, what's up, Buck?
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to bring up a couple points. Number one is, why is it all these defensive coordinators always have such a sucky offensive line?
Thank you for catching yourself, by the way. You're a pro. I heard that start to slip out. You caught it. Sucky is a good save.
Yeah, and, you look at Vrabel and you look at Ron Rivera, all these defensive-minded coaches, as hard as they had to fight these offensive lines, it seems like they'd, want a real good one. And, people are like, oh, Vrabel can go anywhere and get a job. Let him. I think we ought to get a nice offensive-minded head coach from Detroit, Miami, something like that, to really take advantage of Will Levis, because he looks like the real deal, and get an offensive line. If Titans doesn't pick the best offensive line they can in the first round this year, then give me a call. I'm a amateur professional GM myself. So anyway, well, y'all have a good one. I listen every day, and thank you for your show. Bye.
Thank you for the call.
We've had a couple folks throw their own names out there.
Hey, listen, I think as a show we hold on. I don't know what the hell else to do. Teresa Walker's going to come in here and make sure that we're behaving correctly, because neither of us know how to act with 5-9 football. It's just, I don't know about you. I'm a bit of a front runner. I don't know how to act at 5-9.
Yesterday we had the self-proclaimed Bill Belichick of Madden call in and submit his name as a candidate.
I think as a show we should hold open tryouts. I haven't determined how we're going to evaluate these people yet, but I think that might be a fun way to get through the offseason. How can we get people to prove to us that they would be better than the people actually paid to do these jobs? I think it'd be fun. So if you can, so you want an offensive mind, just to quickly address that before we move on, because bowl season kicks off, and that's more fun than what we're talking about right now. But if you can bring Tyreek Hill from Miami with the offensive-minded coach that you're hiring, swell. If you can get Detroit's offensive line from Detroit with said offensive play-calling mind from the Detroit Lions to be your next head coach, I'm for that too. The trend with defensive coaches is interesting, and it's something that worth taking a look at a little later on in the show. Perhaps we'll do it with Teresa Walker. But in the meantime, 40 bowls, 14 days.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Week 15 ended with Drew Lock leading the Seattle Seahawks to a dramatic come-from-behind win over the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football with a late game-winning touchdown pass to Jackson Smith-Njigba for the 20-17 win. The Seahawks moved to 7-7. The Eagles dropped to 10-4 with their third consecutive loss. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans prepare to host the Seattle Seahawks at Nissan Stadium on Christmas Eve at 5-9. Titans are officially out of playoff contention. Mike Vrabel was asked about the challenge of keeping morale at a high level for the final 3 games of the season when he met with the media yesterday.
Rely on the assistant coaches, rely on our leaders, be great every day. Don't be phony. Be as authentic as possible, and keep teaching them the things that are going to help them.
For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome into hour number 2. We're happy to have you if you've been hanging out with us so far. We are greeted by people in the F&M Bank chat like BF on YouTube. I don't know if that stands for best friend or something else. But he says, can you imagine having a radio show 5 times a week, a podcast 5 times a week, another podcast once a week, and you have to talk about the Tennessee Titans at 5-9? I'd rather try myself to represent myself on a murder trial. Well, Lucas and I are built different. I've even agreed, Lucas, to do yet another Titan-centric podcast. I'm going to do the Tighten Up podcast with our friends Austin Huff and Jack Gentry later today.
Love the Tighten Up podcast.
Straight up sadists we are. That's all right. It's our cross to bear. We're happy to be here with you. Phone lines are available, 615-737-1045. That's the number if you want to jump in. You can do so. But it is a tradition unlike any other, and it begins in earnest, I believe, tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time with 40 bowls in 14 days.
Well, we've had plenty of bowl games already in the books. Did you watch any of the bowl game action over the weekend?
A little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. I am getting ready to start my bowl season in earnest tonight with UTSA and Marshall.
Ah, yes, a thriller expected tonight in the, what is it? What's the bowl game called tonight?
I have to click on it. I have a whole slate of schedule. It's Scooters something. I don't know what Scooters is just yet.
I think my favorite thing about bowl season is the sponsor names and just running through and seeing how it's, by the way, the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Excellent.
I'm going to imagine that Scooters is a coffee company, but most of the time you can't even figure what the sponsor does. Like, why does Lockheed Martin have a bowl game?
As a shell company.
What are they trying to sell to us?
They're laundering money.
Like, are they trying to advertise to the U.S. government?
Doesn't Gronk have a bowl?
The Rob Gronkowski Bowl?
I think so. I think Gronk.
Think so.
You laughed. Jimmy Kimmel sponsored a bowl. This is a thing.
He did.
I bet
the
you.
LA Bowl.
Okay, you want to bet me lunch? You're so quick to bet. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Because you're right. All bets are off.
Look at the fear in your eyes when there's a bet that involves you buying me lunch.
Okay, so would you say, since you didn't get the chance to watch all the bowl action over the weekend, would you say you need a recap?
I would take a recap.
Yeah!
I forgot this.
40 bowls in 14 days. 40 bowls in 14 days.
Ohio blew out Georgia Southern in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Florida A&M are HBCU national champs after coming back to beat Howard in the Cricket Celebration Bowl. Rich Rod and Jacksonville State rushed for 290 yards and knocked off Louisiana in overtime in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Miami of Ohio and App State combined for 13 fumbles in a mud pit in Orlando as App State held off Miami to win the Cure Bowl, sponsored by Avocados from Mexico.
No
Fresno
mud
State
pit.
routed New Mexico State to win the Isleta New Mexico Bowl. Chip Kelly and UCLA pulled away from Boise State in the Starco Brands LA Bowl. Texas Tech destroyed Cal in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. And Western Kentucky was getting toasted in the famous Toastery Bowl. They committed 5 turnovers, were down 28-0 to Old Dominion before coming all the way back with a third-string quarterback blocking 2 field goals to win in overtime, 38-35.
40 bowls, 14 days. I forgot. That may be the best thing that Bird has produced.
It's my favorite thing he's ever done.
Just him screaming. So there. That was well done by you, by the way.
Hey, that Western Kentucky game
Drunk.
was everything that you could ever possibly love.
That's the one that I saw the most because the highlights ended up everywhere. It was all over SportsCenter, and then just a kid with a handful of toast shoving it in his face afterwards.
There was so much toast.
There was
so much toast. There were 5,000 people there, and I don't care. Like, that game was the ultimate argument against, there's too many bowl games. No, there's not. Don't watch it.
More.
Turn the TV off. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy Western Kentucky coming back from down 28-0 with a third-string quarterback getting thrown into the game, a Bowling Green native in Caden Veldkamp, Veldkamp, I got his name right, 40 of 52, 383 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception to go with 53 rush yards to lead his hometown team, the Hilltoppers, to their 8th win in a huge comeback in overtime. It was awesome. So if you don't like that, I feel bad for you because I had a great time last night.
It doesn't sound like you feel bad for people. It sounds like you want to fight people.
Watching the famous Toastery Bowl. What is Famous Toastery? Is that a company?
I assume it's like a bakery. Like, is a toastery a variant of a bakery? Have we determined this? I want to sponsor a bowl game.
Oh, it's like a breakfast, brunch, and lunch place.
Oh, so it's a restaurant.
Yes.
The Toastery. That's a unique name.
Around Charlotte. So it's cool.
They're getting free ads.
It's a local place in Charlotte, sponsoring a local bowl game in Charlotte that 5,000 people showed up for, but it was awesome. It was really fun to watch.
What do we have to do to get involved with the Music City Bowl? Who's our competition right now? I get ready to spend company money or try and convince somebody to spend company money on sponsoring a bowl game. Well, 104.5. It doesn't have to be just the show.
The Zone Bowl.
We want the Zone Bowl. Let's make the Zone Bowl happen. Our boss is on vacation. He's not going to hear about this until he gets multiple emails saying that I've gone to air.
Yeah. Forgiveness over permission. Let's just do it.
Jeremy McInturf says Buck needs his own bowl game like Kimmel. No. I don't. I want to share this. I want this to be a communal experience. I want all of us on the Zone to have this bowl game. But I want Dawn on the sidelines. I want Lucas in the booth. I want Slay doing halftime.
Hey, Dawn had a thriller of her own on the sidelines over the weekend in FCS, Montana.
Oh, she had the Montana game?
Yeah, knocking off North Dakota State.
There apparently, Mickey was telling me this on the stage at the pregame show before Titans Texans that there's a kid at Montana who's like threatening, if not breaking, all of Mary Annie's returning records.
Ooh.
I don't know his name, but he's out there.
Like, what does Starco Brands do?
Well, that just sounds like a Meade Johnson type of situation, like an Acme company.
R&L Carriers? What does R&L Carriers do?
I want to guess HVAC. The HVAC people have all the money. It's that and testosterone that I've found in my relationship
Logistics.
with sales. HVAC, logistics.
Logistics.
Well, carrier. That makes sense. We thought too much about it. Maybe we do this instead of horse or rock band this year. Maybe we find some. I don't know if we're doing Music City Bowl ticket giveaways. I don't want to say things that I don't have any knowledge or haven't read my emails about or anything like that. But if an opportunity presents itself, maybe instead of horse or rock band, we have people guess what these companies do.
Yeah, I'm into that because there's a lot. There's a lot. We don't have any SEC teams playing for another week. Next week, we'll have A&M and Oklahoma State will be the first bowl game with an SEC team involved. And then it really ramps up, and that weekend is going to be really, really fun. New Year's Day, one of the best college football days of the year with all the bowl games and, of course, the college football playoff. But, God, love just hilarious bowl games between 6 and 6 teams that nobody watches that have 6,000 people in the stadium.
I think
just
people watch them, though, because it's just kind of like March Madness, right? Nothing makes me happier than once we get into the portion of this where I can turn on the television in the studio while we're doing the show and just, fully seed that day that I'm not going to have your participation at all or your attention at all while there's football, while there's meaningless football being played from 10 to 1. But I love it. It's the best. It is the best because it's always the most it's like having Maction all the time, where Maction is just some of the most ridiculous back-asswards football that you've ever seen in your life, and it's glorious.
The avocados,
unless you bet it, because apparently that ODU bad beat hit for a lot of people. Woo-hoo.
The avocados from New Mexico Bowl, was a mud pit. The jerseys on both sides were just completely brown by the end of it. There was a 13-yard punt in this game and 13 fumbles combined between the two. Not 13 lost fumbles, just 13 fumbles generally. App State had 7. Miami of Ohio had 6. App State had 7 fumbles. They only lost 2 of them. Amazing. The ball's just dropping. Everybody's dropping the football and picking it back up, and it's just in a giant mud pit. The type of game that you love to play in as a kid or something, like in the backyard when it's pouring rain.
So, who do you have in the Frisco Bowl tonight between UTSA and Marshall?
I'm going with UTSA. No, I do like Bowl Mania, right? Like Bowl Pick'em every year. That's always fun. But Jeff Traylor and UTSA is my pick. Jeff Traylor, the near head coach of the Texas A&M Aggies. I don't know if that's actually the case, but he was mentioned a lot. He's done a great job at that program.
Teresa Walker is going to join us here in just a little bit. We'll pivot back to some Titans. We'll take your phone call, 615-737-1045. Let's see. Vic in Nashville. Hey, Vic.
How you doing, Buck, man?
What's up?
Man, I just want to say, man, I don't think it's all variable. I think we just need some speed. You ain't got no time back here. Levis, Tannehill, Malik, we need speed on that offense. And we need it on defense. With no cornerbacks. We're getting burnt. I think we'll be all right next year. We're going to take his loss, get us some good draft picks, bring Derek back for about 2 more years, and build where we'll leave us. I think we'll be all right.
I appreciate the call, Vic. Thank you for it. We'll get into that with Teresa Walker. Titans talked about getting faster this offseason. I don't know that they accomplished that, but we'll see what Queen T's evaluation is coming up next. Welcome back. I don't know if she's dancing, but she is indeed the queen, Teresa Walker. The Associated Press is kind enough to grace us in studio. You haven't been in this studio, I think, since we moved in here all over a year ago, right, Lucas? Been over a year since we've been in the new digs.
October of 2022, I believe.
Less new digs now, but we're happy to see you.
Well, my pleasure. And yes, it is my first time here. And it's quite a nice little facility here. So
the compound, yes.
We just wanted to impress you. That's why we invited you in.
Well, I'm glad you did invite me because it's like a week ago I had to I can't text Buck all the time and correct him when I see him doing stuff. And I was getting ready to head to Titans and I saw him doing, something that folks do in Nashville a lot at red lights. And, and he was doing it while talking on air. And it's like, you just don't go near the nasal region when you're on camera or in public. Or Red Lights, Nashville.
You can say it.
He picked his nose.
You can say it, Teresa. I picked my nose on the air.
It was bad. It's like, come on. Let's not booger up the situation.
Shameful. What's worse is she workshopped that joke during the commercial break and still hit me with it. That's fine.
I did.
I didn't pick my nose.
It sure looked like it.
But not to the extent, if I had, somebody would have immediately screenshot it and put it on the internet.
I was flashing back to the scene in Caddyshack where they were trying to bet, is he going to eat it? Okay? I'm just saying.
Teresa, there's no way Buck's ever seen Caddyshack.
Well, we've been through this exercise once before, Teresa.
I know. I keep sending long lists of the AFI's top movies to people, of your generation. Heck, Audra Martin, who used to be here, I messaged her a week ago. It's like, come on, girl. It's good that you people need to see the classics.
Okay, don't you people me, but so
you children.
Teresa's here because the football team is 5-9, and Lucas and I don't know how to act, and so we'll get to that here in just a second. Your phone calls are welcome for the Queen, 615-737-1045. But when, I think this was in 18 or 19, Teresa, I can't remember the last time that they had a Christmas Eve game followed up by a Christmas Day press conference. I don't know that that's necessary for a team that's out of the playoffs.
Oh, I'm praying that they just do this, play on Sunday. God, time's getting away from me. And Mike, Robbie, if you're listening, we don't need to talk to y'all till Tuesday. Give them Monday off so they can concentrate on Christmas and then come back to work.
Well, the last time they did not give them Monday off, I had a sweater that I wore to a Mike Vrabel press conference. One of those Tipsy Elves sweaters, no free ads for those of you who are familiar. And this one might have had a semblance of reindeer fornication that I was not aware of when I put the sweater on.
Yes, and we all could see it. Yes.
Did not know that.
And see, I was wearing a very colorful top yesterday to Mike Vrabel's, and he says, "Oh, you're wearing your Christmas sweater." And I'm like, no. I'm just trying to stay warm. And then I pointed out to somebody later, at least it was not like Buck's Christmas sweater he wore that time. And it's, what was it? And it's like, let's just say that it was pretty X-rated.
I didn't check the sweater before. It was gifted to me. It's the only Christmas sweater that I have. I put it on. I went to a press conference. Mike Vrabel made a joke about a bowl of soup. With
another
Caddyshack
reference, which right over Buck's head.
We bring all of this full circle. Ben Hall says on Twitter, where you can live stream the show, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Teresa looks great. She does, not just because she's the queen, but she's glowing in the radiance of a ring light. So Teresa, football team 5-9. It's the earliest point in a season under Mike Vrabel that they have been eliminated from postseason contention. You have covered every season of them since they started to make the move from Houston to your domain, the state of Tennessee. How the hell do we act? Because Lucas and I don't know what to do.
Be pros. Look at what the fact of the matter is, they played a season-high 10 rookies against Miami. They've got 6 games, I think, where of the losses that they have are by single scores. So it's like, but that's the NFL. And this is where Mike Vrabel had been so successful his first few seasons, winning those one-score games. But they're still paying the John Robinson tax. And for everybody who wants to blame the coaching, I hate to tell you, but they, Ran Carthon, Mike, they were looking under the couch cushions this last offseason for money. And you can blame the coaches all you want, but sometimes you just cannot make a filet mignon when you're handed $2 chuck.
Well, and literally $2 steak. Was that a shot at me?
No, hey, Aaron Brewer is a great kid, and he has done well to survive 4 seasons in the NFL as an undrafted guy. But I'm sorry, this offensive line has, with 3 games left, have given up one more sack than last year's offensive line. And I swear to God, I didn't think it could get worse than it was last year.
And truly, and I think you speak for everybody. We've articulated that as well. I know fans are beside themselves. That it hasn't looked like this, hasn't felt like this really since 2015.
Correct.
So in that season, there were a lot of differences to why the Titans were in the state that they were in, and a lot of different management coaching decisions that had to be cleaned up, whether that was in real time or after the fact or in the next season after Marcus Mariota was drafted and Ken Wisenhunt was fired. What was that, 6 games into that year?
I think he was 3-23 as a head coach, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, it was like November 3rd, a Tuesday, when Amy Adams-Strunk, who had taken over in March of 2015, that was her first big move, was firing Ken Wisenhunt and making Mike Mularkey the coach. And then let's not forget, she fired Mike Mularkey after a run to the division and a loss to the New England Patriots because she thought this team could do better. And for people who are wanting someone held account and made accountable for this mess that it is, she fired John Robinson, who put most of this roster together and put them in this state last year on December 6th. So it's like there has been somebody fired. Mike, and for people wanting more coaching changes, Mike Vrabel changed a lot of his coaching staff this last offseason. And, but again, if you're wanting to see development and things like that, the biggest thing, I think, the biggest plus you can take out of this season is that you found a quarterback in the second round at number 33 in Will Levis. He looks like that dude. Now it's survive these next 3 games, make sure he doesn't die, and then go fix the offensive line and start patching the holes with the most salary cap space in the NFL. So, yeah, don't worry about draft slot at this point because I'm still trying to remember, besides Jeffrey Simmons, tell me a first-round pick that they took that they signed to a second contract. They didn't sign Corey Davis, 5th pick overall, not Vince Young, not Jake Locker, not Marcus Mariota. So getting higher in the first-round draft order is not as important as the people who make the decisions, because I'm just going to say 2 words to you: Isaiah Wilson.
Panda. It wasn't that long ago, Teresa. That's the thing. Like, we can talk about this all manner of different ways, but it really comes back down to the root issue that they're chasing everything that they've screwed up since 2020 in that draft process.
Absolutely.
And that includes free agents, which you've noted before, whether that's in the written word or in interviews that you've done about some of the free agent misses that are on Twitter. Teresa Walker of the Associated Press hanging out in studio with us, basically telling us how to be pros when the football team is out of playoff contention before Christmas. When Amy fired John, I don't know that any of us thought that she might do it in season, but embarrassing an ownership group forces a lot of moves. Now, there was a cumulative effect that they were dealing with, and at the time they still had a winning record when they let John Robinson go. It was coming off the Philadelphia Eagles game where her and her family are getting double middle fingers from the fans in Philadelphia because thanks for AJ, you dopes.
Well, who doesn't get double middle fingers in Philly? I mean, it's the city that,
Nick Sirianni got him last night.
Yeah. I'm just saying, that's the town that hates Santa Claus when they're mad, okay?
Sure.
But just remember this. The reason I think that she fired him then, yes, the embarrassment in Philly, the reminder that you should not have let A.J. Brown go. But here's the thing. The NFL Accelerator Program, they just had their 4th one, I think, last week for front office and GM candidates. And, that firing happened, I think, before last year's front office GM Accelerator Program. I talked with Rand Carthon for a story a couple of weeks ago, oh my God, maybe a week ago, but it moved on December 11th. So
maybe a week ago, she says.
I have unless I have a calendar in front of me, I don't know what day it is, okay?
You're doing great, girl.
It's that time of the year. But Rand Carthon was one of those people who, firing John Robinson let everybody know coming to that program, Titans are looking for a new GM, and they could start looking at candidates. Now, the process, as Rand described it, is more meet and greet, hi, FaceTime that these folks never get with ownership groups. And, and she was the one who had a slot to fill. So last week, teams that had made moves, Raiders with an interim GM and things like that, those are the teams they could start looking, and you can kind of start figuring out who you wanted to hire. And weeks later, they ended up hiring Rand Carthon.
That the results are not microwavable, basically, since then. That they haven't been, they made a change with the general manager, that the product is still poor because they're dealing with the consequences of not just 1 year of bad decision making, but multiple, dating back to 2020, really where it started. They benefit none from while there are fair criticisms to be had about Mike Vrabel and about the Titans coaching staff. I don't know that this bloodthirst that a lot of fans seem to be after fixes the kind of problems that they have. I'm not saying that he should be, that he should be allowed to do his job with impunity, basically, because there are some fair criticisms about him and his management style and all kinds of different things about how he wears on players and what that looks like at 5-9 as opposed to 9-5. But I just don't think people are seeing clearly where it comes to actual solutions that improve this football team in the ways that it needs improvement.
Well, that's the thing. For people who think that he doesn't get along and make a connection with players, of all the coaches I've covered, I think Mike Vrabel actually does that. Back in the summer, Chig Okonkwo talked about how, as a rookie, Mike Vrabel barely acknowledged his existence. But once he got to his second season, he talks. Mike Vrabel does try to make a connection with each player, and so that when he is riding them and pushing them, they know that he's trying to get the best out of them. And sometimes you have other people getting players' ears, and I did hear one of your callers call in, and it was like, we need an offensive-minded coach. Do we need to forget that in 2019 this team was in the top 5? They were second most yards per game, and they were tied for 4th in points scored. So it's like under Mike Vrabel, they have shown they can be very offensive. As a defensive guy who played 14 years at linebacker, he understands that more points than the other team actually does win you games. So, I keep going back to the fact that it is personnel. Yes, Don Shula was a coach who could take yours and beat his'n, and take his'n and meet urine, those things. And
urine.
I think it was a Bum Phillips
You
quote.
accused me of picking my nose on the air. It's all fair game at this point.
It's a Southernism, Buck. It's not what you're trying to make of it. It's not number one.
No, we already had somebody call in and use Grandma's references about chicken salad and chicken bleep, so we don't have to get too close to the Southern references.
Well, trust me. That's what they're making over there at St. Thomas Sports Park right now. Lemonade, chicken salad, whatever you want to make of it. Think about this, Jay. How many players have they started at, for the first 11 games, 8 different starting combinations on the offensive line. They were literally trying to find something that worked. And, Chris Hubbard was a late signing. They thought, blame, if you want to get mad, yes, Rand Carthon whiffed on Andre Dillard. But, he was a first-round pick, and, sometimes coaches and organizations think if we get him, and maybe we can fix him. It didn't work. They tried. So it's like, I think that, Andre Dillard should be one of the guys cut this offseason.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I know. It's
come on.
I know. You've got to, so, we've seen the one thing. This idea of accountability, and there was somebody there yesterday asking about accountability questions. Well, we saw them fire Craig Aukerman. We saw Andre Dillard benched. So we've seen Tier Tart. He tried to, clean up on aisle 5 last Friday, saying, I asked for my release.
So you're saying that was spin from Tier Tart?
No, a player who gets cut because maybe he's not the attitude you want in the locker room and late in a struggling season gets cut. No. Yes, that was a cleanup on aisle 5, probably encouraged by his agent, I think, who is Drew Rosenhaus at the moment.
Sure is.
Third different agent for an undrafted guy. It's like, come on. Sometimes you actually do have to work for your money. But attitude is everything. Yes, Mike Vrabel said it yesterday. He's got to figure out how to work through this and figure out what his message is, because he's always had this team in contention to the final game of the season. through his first 5 years. So he is in uncharted territory as a head coach, and I'm very curious to see how he does, get guys to focus. But here's the thing, people, jobs are on the line. And yes, Amy is managing things. She's keeping an eye on how they handle as a coaching staff. Do I expect Mike Vrabel's job? No, his seat is pretty comfortably cool at this point, because I think she wants to see him, Rand, use all this cap space, use the draft picks, and see how they bounce back, because there's going to be at least, I'll make you a bet right now, a minimum of 25 new players on this roster next year.
I think it's fair.
Maybe closer to 30.
I mean, for our weekly viewing experience, Teresa, if not for the mental well-being of the fan base, I think people should hope so. You want to take some phone calls? You brought up the callers.
Sure.
Okay, they're there for you. 615-737-1045 is the number. Chuck in Clarksville has been waiting patiently.
Hey, Buck. Every time I hear our fans, I want to say two things. Be careful what you wish for. Like Teresa said, you may get another Ken Whisenhunt, who was the offensive guru. Everybody thought, hey, there's offensive coach you want to get for your head coach, and it didn't work out. And the other thing is, who you going to get? I mean, Eric Bieniemy is the offensive mind everybody says should be the next coach. But he's been interviewed I don't know how many times, and nobody has hired him yet. So there's got to be something there. So just be careful what you wish for. I think that's kind of what Teresa's saying too. But, my only thing is, I would say of this Titans team, only about 30 of these players are somebody that Vrabel or Rand really want. The rest of them have just been patchwork. So we're just going to have to work in the offseason and get the players they want.
Thank you for the call.
Chuck's absolutely sorry, I can't talk all of a sudden. Chuck is absolutely right. A couple weeks ago, I was seeing tweets. We need to sell. We need a new owner. Sell the team. And
I
it's
did get some of those too.
And again, be careful what you wish for. David Tepper, a billionaire who everybody was excited to see come into Carolina. When the Titans beat Carolina, that dropped his record as an owner to 30-63. So yes, be careful what you wade into, and absolutely, it's a patchwork mess at this point. Trying to clean up and find guys who want to be here, and you know what? Want to and attitude. You can say that those are some cliches, but at this time of the year, with the grind that the NFL is, those are absolute musts in an attitude for what you're looking for in a player.
They're still playing for Vrabel. Whether they're playing for Vrabel or playing for themselves or for the guy in the locker room that they like who's lining up next to them or for their next contract, whether it's here or elsewhere, like it's not a football team that is quit. The Chargers are a football team that had quit. Everybody saw it on national television. Richard Sherman, I think, was half joking, half not when he said Brandon Staley should be fired at halftime during the halftime interview portion of that, which, he's not necessarily wrong. 42-0 felt like a good time. But point being, like there are things that they can continue to build upon. They are not a perfect organization, but again, there is I don't think that Mike should be safe just because, well, who are you going to get? I don't like that as logic. Like, I think there are actual reasons why that person deserves to continue to keep his job that he has proven over the course of his time here, not just because who else are you going to get as the counterpoint. Do you have another segment in you?
Sure.
Are you sure?
I do.
Okay. Well, the phone calls are there for you. We'll continue to talk Titans with Teresa Walker. I'm going to ask her coming up next whether she thinks if Levis is healthy enough to play, the Titans should play him, because a lot of you don't seem to think so. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
Welcome back to the show. Teresa Walker is kind enough to grace us for another segment. Teresa, what's the latest thing that you have up at AP.com?
Well, I did retweet John Morant is back tonight. His 25-game suspension ends, and guess what? He's playing Zion Williamson in New Orleans tonight, and it's going to be on TNT. So I was down there on Friday for his thing and give him credit. He said only actions, not words, are going to be able to prove that I've maybe learned something. And of course, now the problem is he said kind of the same thing when they were ousted by the Lakers, and right now they're closer to the bottom. They're going to have a Mount Everest to climb to even get to the playoffs and possibly that 10th playing spot. So, we'll see. But it's that's the last thing. And LeBron's welcoming him back, so at least there's a reason why they've got like 12 games on the national schedule with him back, and there was like one before that. So. They know who the star is.
They've been a pretty tough watch without John Morant. That's
ugly.
That's the best thing about Teresa. Well, there's many great things about Teresa Walker, but she does literally all of it in the state of Tennessee. At Teresa M. Walker is where you can follow her on Twitter. APnews.com is where you can read all of the work that she and her colleagues do, whether it's the Vols, whether it's Vanderbilt, whether it's Nashville SC, the Titans, the Grizzlies. Queen T is doing it all. And we'll have a Preds question for you by the end of this segment, I feel. But sticking with the theme of the Titans, Will Levis is dealing with a high ankle sprain, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. His status for Christmas Eve against the Seahawks is in question. Teresa, if he is healthy enough to play, will they play him? Not should they play him, but will they play him?
See, that's the great question. I mean, I can argue both sides of it because, you grow through game snaps. And part of playing in the NFL is knowing how to play when you're hurt. And he has been on the injury report with a foot or ankle, the left foot or ankle, since the week of the Tampa Bay game. So he was not on the injury report before Pittsburgh, and he's been there since then. And yes, you have to be able to play not at 100%, especially in December. It's a big reason why Derrick Henry, it's been called D-Henber for so long, because he's going up against guys whose bodies are aching. So you could judge him, but yes, he and Mike Vrabel kind of talked about it. How much can he protect himself will be a key part of the decision factor. And because the more snaps you get at game speed, even learning how to move around a pocket, even as bad as this one is, and make plays is part of the learning curve in the NFL. So that's why if he can play, if he can move around well enough to protect himself, I say play him, because yes, he will be learning, and you cannot simulate and mimic what he'll learn in these final 3 games next offseason or training camp or preseason games. So why? Game speed. It is very different, even for a team who is eliminated, and they can play spoiler role. If Mike Vrabel wants to, rally him around something, Seattle after the win last night. I haven't looked at the NFC picture this morning, but try to win out. Why? You want some revenge against Houston? They've won 3 straight against you. Keep them out. And try not to help them away. Lovie Smith helped the Texans last year into that C.J. Stroud pick. But then secondly, Jacksonville's coming here. Nothing better than to beat them the way they beat you and took your AFC South title a year ago. So those are some of the things to play for, and to see how the rookies around him continue growing. That's what's being gauged at this point for a 5-9 season that's eliminated, is who keeps pressing, who keeps showing up to work no matter what the record is, showing that they can try to get better, because they've got so many rookies that have been playing. Bohanna, the Memphis native. Yeah, thank you. Son of one of the 3-6 Mafia guys. It ain't
royalty.
Exactly. Hustle and flow, baby.
Wait, is he really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No. That's awesome.
See?
This is why Teresa is invaluable, because she literally knows everything.
And if I don't know it, I know how to Google it and get it real quick. But you want to see who how they're watching film. And trust me, the coaches will be quizzing. One of the things that Mike Vrabel does is he'll ask guys questions like Mike Mularkey did before him, put them on the spot. Mm-hmm. And if they can't answer, guess what? It's like you've been called up in front of the class. And if you don't know the answer, they know you haven't been doing your work. And that goes in the back of the mind for the offseason evaluation, do we need to move on from this player and find somebody else?
Teresa, I just don't want to see them, and I don't know that they would not play him. So this is entirely a hypothetical, because my feeling on it is that if he is medically cleared and he wants to go out there, that they will play Will Levis, despite some fans saying, no, bubble wrap him, keep him safe. Him and Tajay Spears and all the other important young players. Jeffrey Simmons, no.
Then who do you play?
That's my point. And I don't want to see them discouraged. I love his attitude, his energy up there. I know that he's got to take better care of himself when he's out there running around on the field and lowering his shoulder and things like that. Like, I know that there have to be some guardrails on him a little bit, but I would never want to see a coaching staff discourage a player like that with as many young players as they have playing meaningful snaps for them and saying, no, it's okay. We don't need you this week. We appreciate your enthusiasm. We don't need you this week, when in fact they very much do. So I think that just to kind of answer that question for a lot of fans who have been pondering it. Speaking of questions for Teresa, before we ask her a couple of not Titans related questions, Raleigh is in Antioch up next.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Teresa. I followed you for a long time.
Hey, appreciate that very much.
For you. Yeah, you probably know my brother, Tommy Squires.
I sure do.
Hey, I got a question, and it's been a topic of conversation recently. Do you think this is Derrick Henry's last year in Tennessee? And do you think the Titans ought to try to keep him?
I would argue that they should try to keep him. Why? Well, he is 6th in the NFL in rushing behind this line, which we've already covered is not good.
It's wild.
It is insane that he has been he was held to his worst totals, and I heard you use the stat, and my colleague shared that with me Sunday night, that it was it was ridiculous how few yards he had on Sunday. But, DeMeco Ryans, as a former defensive coordinator, especially Derrick Henry had 1,018 yards in his last 5 games against Houston. Do you think that he was a marked man? And he's been a marked man for this offense, and yet last year he produced this year. And, yes, we've seen his carries and his touches go down. Tajay Spears is getting some of those. I could envision, Derrick Henry, you look at the free agent lists, he's at the top of the pending running back free agents. And if you can find a way to keep him here for a couple years, find a way to do a deal that's maybe more front-loaded for a guy who does turn 30 on January 4th, is he as fast as he was 2 years ago before the broken foot? Probably not. But he got real fast when he got into the open ground earlier this season. He just hasn't had much room to run because teams are trying to shut him down. It's the Bill Belichick thing. Take away the best player and see if Will Levis can beat you. He did in Miami, and then he couldn't do it on Sunday.
You going to squeeze a Preds question in there?
Yeah, I guess with this run the Preds are on, Teresa, they're kind of up against it here, but wanted to get this in as they're starting another win streak, something they've done a lot over the last couple of weeks. Has your opinion on what they can accomplish this season changed? How much has the last couple of weeks impacted maybe what you thought of their postseason hopes before the start of the Andrew Brunette era?
I have to admit, I did not have planning for a potential first-round series on my calendar in mid-April at the start of this season, but I wanted to see how quickly they bought into Andrew Brunette. Brunette did really, really well as an interim coach with the Panthers. And Barry Trotz, let's just put it this way. I've been impressed by the moves he's made as a debut first-year GM. And Andrew Brunette, the players are having fun. Young guys are getting opportunities. This is a faster team. And a year ago, we weren't saying that about the Predators. So I like everything I've seen at this point. And, at this point, they can sniff that number 3 spot in their division. So I'm going to be I've been paying close attention. It's hard not to, and Philip Forsberg just keeps trying to score.
Unbelievable.
It's
Friend of the show. Can we make him guest co-host, Lucas? I feel like we need to do regular visits with Forsberg.
3 overtime game winners just this season. I think 11 for his career.
Crazy.
And the last one was the slowest. It's like, come on. It took you more than 18 seconds, Philip. What's the problem here? So, they're fun to watch, which is the most important thing as you're retooling a team. We were talking about bad teams. Sometimes, I was wondering which franchise would pull off the NASCAR pit stop pit stops kind of changeover faster, better. Right now, it's the Predators with their first-year GM, not the Titans with first-year GM Rand Carthon, and and both were facing similar issues with not a lot of cap space. And guess what? Predators, Barry Trotz, David Poyle, they got rid of some contracts and brought in some guys, and they seem to have at this moment found a sweet spot that I didn't expect.
We've gone way over
Sorry.
here. No. It's our fault because you have so many things to say, and we have a lot of questions for you. Will you come back at some? Just answer this. Will you come back at some point before that you go to cover the Olympics this year?
Yes, because that's next July.
Excellent. So we'll have Teresa Walker back then at Teresa M. Walker on Twitter, apnews.com.
It is 12:03. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Tennessee Titans are officially eliminated from playoff contention, but will be back home Sunday at 5 and 9 to host the Seattle Seahawks, who will be on a short week after a dramatic Monday Night Football win over the Eagles last night. The big question this week for the Tennessee Titans, do we see rookie quarterback Will Levis, who left the game against Houston injured on Sunday? Ian Rappaport reported yesterday Levis suffered a sprained ankle. Mike Vrabel, when meeting with the media, detailed how the Titans are looking at his status this week at practice.
It's Monday right now. He's sore, obviously, like a lot of guys. And we'll see, how things go.
Tonight, the Nashville Predators are back home looking to extend a 4-game winning streak against the Vancouver Canucks at Bridgestone Arena. The Preds currently 18-13 and in fourth place in the Central Division. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Thanks to Queen Teresa for hanging out with us. She was phenomenal. Tim in the F&M Bank chat on Twitch, where you can interact. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. The show is live stream. Phone calls. We'll get to them here in a second. Tim says, need Teresa on the show more often. Well, while she does not do the radio show very often, we do have Teresa as a regular on the 615 Sessions podcast, where we cycle in a bunch of different Titans media to guest co-host with me, and we talk about the week that was on Friday. So if you didn't get enough Queen T, have her on the podcast, I would probably say once a month at minimum. Last week was Kaharski right after he broke the T.R. Tart story. Teron Davenport regularly appears there as well. Joe Rexroad, all of our Titans media friends and colleagues, where we have a great time. Meanwhile, phone lines are kind of open. We got a few people hanging out. We'll get to them here in just a second. If you want to chime in, you're welcome to do so on the topic of Will Levis. So, Lucas, the quarterback gets injured in this game. That is the greatest offense of all the offenses that they committed in this overtime loss on Sunday to the Houston Texans. And I really think that a lot of people are conflicted about what they want the Titans to do. Now, I've had a handful, and I don't know how seriously to take, like a couple people throwing me messages on Twitter, right, about the need to sit Will Levis and not expose him to further injury, even if he is medically available to play. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. To this point, there's been no indication of surgery. Surgery would probably shut him down for the season, given that there are 3 games left in the season. But it's tough for me to look at his circumstance and Mike Vrabel's circumstance and say that as a coaching staff, they just need to shut him down to keep him safe. If he is available to play in this hypothetical, Will Levis is available on Sunday against the Seahawks. I don't know that he's going to be available. He'll probably speak tomorrow, and if he doesn't, then that's very telling. But I would imagine that Will Levis would speak tomorrow at the podium, as is the custom for the quarterback on Wednesdays.
Well, everything depends on the severity too, right? Like there's differing levels of availability. I get if you're available and you're going to play, you're expected to go out and play how you normally do. But there's Trevor Lawrence sprained ankle, right? Where 2 weeks ago he has to be helped off the field, and then he's back 7 days later in
against
Cleveland.
The Cleveland Browns, which is a much more difficult task than a lot of defenses in the league right now.
Against Myles Garrett, he's back the next week. Or is it, more on the Ryan Tannehill side of things, where Tannehill now for each of the last 2 seasons has given it a go, has been available after the initial sprained ankle, and both times there's been a Well, I guess there wasn't even a re-aggravation this year, right? It was just he went out in the
He got
Baltimore
a
game.
high ankle sprain.
Right. But last year he went out, came back, and re-aggravated it, 2 weeks later? So
yes.
A sprained ankle is complicated because it feels like there are several different levels of aggravation that would lead to this decision.
So in all of this, there's, of course, Mike Vrabel, who updated us yesterday on Will Levis's health and was asked a couple of follow-ups about if Levis is unavailable, would Tannehill be the quarterback that they go to? Here was the head coach yesterday at the podium.
Mike, how is Will? Have you gotten test results back? And depending on his health, is it do you have to weigh the fact that you're eliminated on whether or not you put him on the field?
Well, I don't think that necessarily weighs into, the decision right now. I want to make sure that, one, that he can protect himself, that he can do his job up to the expectations that we have, and that he, really the most important thing is that any player can protect themselves out there when, during a game. So it's Monday right now. He's sore, obviously, like a lot of guys, and we'll see, how things go.
So nothing, revolutionary there, but the theme, can he protect himself well enough if he does play? And that's a determination that they'll have to make with the training staff, and I'm sure they will consult Levis, although there have been examples, Lucas, of a player feeling like he can play and the whether it's the coaching staff or the training staff saying, no, you're not going to go this week. Christian Fulton is an example of that. Christian Fulton felt like he could have played after the Saints game, and they told him no.
You don't want to be in a spot where suddenly Will Levis is having to have offseason surgery, the way Ryan Tannehill did last year.
That is the least desirable. There is no outcome worse than that, other than like an ACL or something like that. Knock on wood or something.
So it all depends on the severity of the injury. But let's say, for argument's sake, that he just can't. He just can't go.
Okay.
Who do you put in there?
Tannehill.
You think Tannehill goes? Like, you think that's the decision if Levis just can't go?
If they're trying to win a football game, it's Tannehill.
If they're trying to win a football game, you're right. That's probably the move. Brian on the F&M Bank chat says, play Malik. If you're looking at maybe what serves all parties as far as the players, which isn't how the coaching staff is going to look at it, the thing that serves all parties the most would be playing Malik, right?
Maybe. The counter to that is I truly think, and it's impossible for people to not think that this is not like some kind of a personal attack, but I feel like he hurts himself more when he plays. If you're talking about as an asset, like for people to see him and to consider, Malik Willis, that's a weird situation. Are the Titans going to keep him as the backup quarterback next year? Maybe we'll browse. Maybe we'll explore in the offseason. I truly, after Baltimore, man, I really think that he hurts himself more when he plays. Not in the literal sense of hurting himself. I'm talking about as far as being an asset to somebody else who might acquire him or be interested in acquiring him beyond just, him getting snatched up off waivers if they decide to explore a better backup quarterback situation this offseason, by the way, which they should.
I feel like the reward for Malik, from Malik's perspective of getting that opportunity, outweighs the risk of, just looking like he did against Baltimore. Whereas if you're Ryan Tannehill, in what world does it benefit you to get out there?
Oh, because he wants starter money.
He wants to start next year.
He wants to start. Now, the counter to that is also Ryan Tannehill is 35 years old, and you're going to ask him behind that offensive line to go back out there with 3 games left, with freedom, we'll call it, on the other side for the opportunity to go cash in. Tannehill, if they asked him to play, he would play. All right? It's not like a Zach Wilson. You saw those Zach Wilson reports a couple of weeks ago about him allegedly, and he denied it flatly, but it was alleged that Zach Wilson was less than excited about going back out there behind the Jets offensive line. By the way, completely normal reaction based on what the Jets offensive line looks like this year.
And also, Zach Wilson had one of the best performances of his career.
He certainly did. But Malik, of course, should want the opportunity to get out there and play. Malik, from his standpoint, from his representation standpoint, it benefits him. Like, to just be told no flatly takes away any opportunity that he would have to earn a spot here as the backup quarterback or elsewhere trying to compete. I would think it would be to be a backup quarterback elsewhere based on where he is right now, but I don't know. There's a lot of things that happen over the course of an NFL offseason. Maybe he gets a chance to compete for a starting role. I would be surprised, but that it never happens if he doesn't play anymore. But if they are serious about winning a football game, then the answer to that question has to be Tannehill.
And I get they still just want to win football games, even though they're out of the playoffs. But think about the boxes that it would check. How many boxes it would check for it to be Malik that plays? For Tannehill, he gets to stay healthy and go into next season with his best opportunity to start. For Levis, he gets to get healthy. For Malik, he gets that opportunity. And for the Titans, you just get another look at Malik Willis and see if there's anything there as a viable backup. And for Titans fans, that's probably the thing that is most likely to lead to losses in better draft position.
Yeah.
Like, it checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
No, I'm with you.
Other than giving them the best chance to win the football game, which is going to be the highest priority for the coaching staff.
Listen, on Tuesday, I don't think it's a certainty that Ryan Tannehill is, if Will Levis, we don't know if Will Levis cannot play on Christmas Eve against the Seahawks. If Will Levis cannot play, it is not guaranteed that Ryan Tannehill would go out there. Though, who has been the backup quarterback? Now, this didn't matter for Levis because Levis was a healthy scratch until he wasn't. Who has been the backup quarterback for every week that Will Levis has been the starter? And who has been the healthy scratch there? The emergency QB. Dressed but not technically available unless catastrophe strikes.
Malik
is the emergency quarterback, yes. He's the third. 615-737-1045. You can chime in on this if you want to. What kind of message would it send to you as the fan base? And how are you as a fan base dealing with this at 5-9 with 2 home games left on the schedule? We'll get into that. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. We're talking quarterback because the Titans quarterback situation is in question for Sunday's game against Seattle. Now, I haven't texted Mina Kimes. I don't know if Mina's got time for a 5-9 football team or talk radio for a 5-9 football team, but given that she is the number one Seahawks fan, she was on the Manning cast last night, and every time Chig makes a play now, she'll send me a text because that's been something that she's been trying to salvage as far as football takes are concerned. That's not fair. That's not fair at all.
Look, everybody, Mina Kimes texts me.
That's not Lucas. She's a guest on the radio show. She's a friend of mine.
Mina Kimes has my number.
Do you want help booking the radio show this week or not?
Buddy, I don't know that Mina Kimes is going to want to make time for us.
No, I know. That she was even paying attention to Chig last week surprised me. But just thinking about who we can get to talk about a 5-win football team in December as we also try and get through this the way that you all are getting through this. That's a terrible fine, by the way. That you should be fined for an unjust fine. I'm waiting to hear the cash sound for you.
No, sorry. So Teresa, this is what I love about Teresa Walker, who was just in here.
Oh, is she peppering me?
Keeping us accountable. Still, always keeping us accountable. She reminds us of Mariota's injury against Jacksonville in the regular season finale, or right around Christmas. Maybe it wasn't exactly.
So it wasn't the regular season finale. They were in Jacksonville with the division on the line, and Mariota snapped his fibula
near the end of the season. Obviously, a really serious injury that required surgery that offseason. And was that the moment we look at where Marcus wasn't the same after that? Like, is that where it sort of started?
Yes, for sure where it started. The nerve damage in the throwing elbow is the thing that most derailed Marcus Mariota's career. Now, broken legs are tough to come back from under any circumstance. Marcus was definitely not the same kind of player after that particular injury. But I do think it's a combination of things with what happened to Mariota at the end, and they were obviously in a much different situation. They had the opportunity to win the division. In 2000, that would have been 2016? And that it fell apart and that they lost to the Jags and Castle had to play out the stretch there left people, I think, pretty underwhelmed. But that they were playing for something mattered.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't a question of do we play Marcus or not. But it's a really big risk that you're talking about. If Levis is banged up and he's having to hobble around behind that offensive line for the last 3 weeks. And it all depends on the severity of the injury. But I'm not going to dismiss people that just don't want to see him out there because of that.
I did that yesterday. If he's medically cleared to play, we had a caller call in and say, not just of Levis, but of Spears. And I was mainly dismissing the idea of shutting a bunch of guys down.
No, you don't need to shut everything down.
That was because he brought up multiple players, and I'm sure he would have included Jeff Simmons, who's working his way back from injury. I was shutting down the idea of them shutting down a variety of different players just to keep them healthy and sacrificing whoever it is, Tannehill or Malik or Derek or whomever is on an expiring contract, but still has something left to play for in their careers, just kind of sacrificing them to the football god so you can keep the other one safe. That's not realistic. Levis individually, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to have it as a part of the consideration. Does it actually benefit you to put him out there? And they may honestly ask themselves again, it comes back to the question of, are they trying to win a football game? The answer is probably yes. So, is hobbled Will Levis the best thing that you have to win a football game? Is also a part of the consideration that we haven't really talked about here. Like, if he's healthy enough, but is he actually healthy enough? Mike Vrabel brought it up. Can he protect himself? Does he actually give you the best chance to win a football game, or does Tannehill, who is completely healthy at this point, who's as rested as he's ever going to be, and, I'm sure wants to play football beyond this, and that offensive line might put that opportunity at risk. As somebody in the chat said it in a way that made me laugh, BF, if I'm Mike Vrabel and I'm worried about my job, I'm playing Tannehill against the Seahawks. If I'm not worried about my job, I'm rolling with Malik. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I don't think Mike Vrabel's job hinges on what happens against the Seattle Seahawks when you're 5-9 and already out of playoff contention.
But it does, Lucas, if they put Will Levis in a bad spot. That is where it does come into play. Because, again, embarrassing yourself against Houston in the Oilers uniforms when your ownership group is all present and all your legends are all your franchise legends are there and you're making a big scene about it and Vrabel's got the Bum Phillips hat on, all that's well and good until you get the quarterback hurt. So that, I think, all these different things factor in. Ethan is in Florence, Alabama, 615-737-1045. If you want to join, Ethan is next.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have two thoughts, so just please bear with me real quick. Backup QBs have been meaning more and more this season. I think you go with Malik and see what he has. Starting Ryan Tannehill does nothing but give aging QB playing time. Not playing Malik is just wasting a pick. If we see what we have, it could be a good backup or, a fifth-round pick. That's a maybe. I'm not saying that anybody would want him after seeing him play, but that's just a thought. Second thought, Tim Kelly hasn't been great all year. If your O-line is trash, you have to call plays to help them, quick routes, running back out of the backfield routes, more protection with the tight ends, kind of a heavy set. Tim hasn't done this all year.
No, Ethan, I'm gonna stop you there because that's incorrect. Nobody uses wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs more in their protection plan than do the Tennessee Titans by personnel grouping. That's factually incorrect. But you go ahead.
I'm just saying that, I don't know, man. Like, whenever we're on 3rd and 6 and stuff, and then you see, 3 wide receivers going 40 yards down the field when we need 6 yards, it just doesn't seem like that's a very healthy way of trying to protect Will when he has to sit back in the pocket and let them get 40 yards down the field to throw the ball. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. I'm saying that our whole thing today, and I appreciate the call, Ethan. Thank you for it. They have no solutions, right? If they drop back, the offensive line gets him killed. When they try to run the ball, the offensive line gets Derek hit at or behind the line of scrimmage more than any other running back in football this year. They do try and protect. They max protect as much as any team in football, if not more. They run as many two-man routes down the field because of those protection plans, because of those max protection plans, as much, if not more, than any team in the sport. So I listen, people are frustrated, and it's not your job to look at those kind of things, personnel grouping, deployment, and usage rates, the way that it is ours. But it's an unfair characterization to say that they aren't trying things to keep him upright. The fact that they are trying all of these things and still not able to get it done speaks to a level of ineptitude on the roster that, again, is the root cause of their issues.
Why do you think it is that Tajay had obviously not much more success than Derek running the ball, but more success than Derek running the football on Sunday? Yards per carry 2, maybe 3 versus Derek 0.6. Like, is it as simple as Tajay Spears and his play style and the ability to evade tacklers behind the line of scrimmage more so than Derrick Henry's play style, which calls more for a path forward, path forward by your offensive line?
Like 2 steps. Derek has to have 2 steps. You see him when he's back there behind the line, Lucas, all day on Sunday. He's trying to find a lane, and he can't because the lane that he's supposed to be running to and getting those 2 steps is immediately filled by Malik Collins or some other defensive lineman for the Texans. That Tajay can stop on a dime in ways that Derek is, I don't want to say he's fundamentally not able to, but it's a hell of a lot harder to slow and change direction if you're Derrick Henry than it is Tajay Spears. Also, it's easier for him to hide. Like Tajay Spears they don't have to block it well for Tajay Spears to get lost behind an offensive lineman. Jalen Duncan is what, 6'8", 6'7"? Tajay Spears maybe 5'9", 5'10", maybe. I may be generous to Tajay. Derrick Henry is 6'4", damn near 260. You can't miss him. It is as simple as it's a more difficult target for you to get your hands on or to make contact with than Derrick Henry is right now. It sucks because, again, it's not Derrick's fault. They're not equipped to play with Derrick Henry in the backfield. Steve is calling us from Georgia next.
Yes, I'm in Georgia, Tennessee.
Oh, I'm sorry. It said Georgia. Terrible job out of you, Lucas.
I heard Georgia.
Yeah, I think we should play Malik the last 3 games and see what he's got for us to see if he can be a capable backup for us next year.
I appreciate the call, Steve, from Jolton. Not that far. Much closer than Georgia. So Lucas's point about it checking a lot of boxes for people is spot on. If you find out something about him, then perhaps it changes your approach to how you go about addressing the backup quarterback in the offseason. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe he's already there. That would be the best possible circumstance that could arise from that. If he plays well enough and you can recoup draft capital from a former third-round pick at a premium position, you're not getting back a third-round pick from Malik no matter how well he plays, if he plays, but that you can recoup draft capital that allows you flexibility of movement around in the draft. If you're trying to move up, if you're trying to move back, that would be a plus. If he plays poorly and you lose the starts that he makes, well, that does improve your draft position where you're currently set or slated to pick 9th in this NFL draft. There are still a bunch of good players that can be had at 9, but you're talking about a different tier, and this team needs a great deal of help, a lot more blue chip players at a variety of different positions that are failing right now. There is no good argument that I can present to fans for playing Tannehill, right? Other than the coaching staff will view it as, if we are serious about trying to win a football game, then that quarterback will give us the best chance this coming Sunday.
That's going to be the ultimate disconnect over the next 3 weeks.
And there's nothing I can do to bridge that gap for you.
No.
And it'll piss you off if he goes out there, and you'll come on here on Monday morning and you'll bitch to us about it, and we'll try to walk you through it, okay? But I can't help see all the different lists or all the different reasons that people want and should want to see Malik. I'm not dismissing that. But to say that the coaching staff is not going to do stuff in regular season games, even if they're eliminated from postseason contention, that's just kind of like, okay, why not? Like, it's like Shi Smith. How long has Shi Smith been on the practice squad, the wide receiver?
Forgot about Shi Smith.
Exactly, because he's just perennially existed on the practice squad. Like, that's like saying, all right, play Shi Smith at wide receiver this week because, the wide receivers can't get it done. Well, they're never going to do that. And while quarterback is more important and there's a lot more to be gained or to be lost at the quarterback position based on how he might perform, I can't help but go back to the thing that makes the most sense if you're the coaching staff, which is jobs are on the line. We need to win. Ryan Tannehill is the best option to win a football game. And you're going to hate that. I personally don't love it, but I understand if they were to do it, why they would do it, even if I'm not crazy about the idea of that.
Jim on the F&M Bank chat says, we are mathematically eliminated. No reason in the world to play someone that's gone next year when you have Willis on the bench.
Jobs. The people who are not predetermined to be gone next year want to still win football games. Charles London doesn't want to. I don't want to speak because I don't want to present a situation that people might take as real. But if you're Charles London as the quarterback's coach and everybody's being evaluated as the quarterback's coach, if you put Malik Willis out there and he looks like less than a quarterback, is Charles London going to be looked at as somebody like Jason Hoteling, who everybody wanted fired yesterday?
I don't think so. I don't think so because of what we've seen from Levis.
Maybe it's a bad example.
And Charles London has a lot to do with what we've seen from Levis this year.
For sure. They have all three, in talking to all three of those quarterbacks, credited Charles London with a great deal of work that they've been able to accomplish. And Levis, obviously, the most important one. But you're not thinking like a coach who's on a 5-9 football team. That you're not is okay. You don't have to. You don't have to live that kind of miserable existence. The only kind of miserable existence you have to live is that your football team sucks and you're trying to figure out why. We'll see what decision they make. Again, Levis talks to us. The starting quarterback talks on Wednesdays. If Levis is up there, it's a good sign. If he's not, well, then we figure it out from there. How about Mike in Murfreesboro next?
What's up, guys?
How are you?
Good. Need an offensive line. How do I go get one? Do I do it in free agency? Do I do it in draft? What's the solution?
I appreciate the call, Mike, and it's a good question that you asked. Thank you for it. You draft them. You supplement them by guys who are functional offensive linemen, preferably like Daniel Brunskill is an example of somebody that you would love to have as a replacement level starter on an offensive line group. He's not a starting offensive lineman. He's been a starting offensive lineman in a couple of different spots, but you'd like a better option there. You draft a player, you have somebody like Brunskill behind him so that you can plug and play as you need. But free agency offensive line contracts are a trap. If you were listening in the first hour, Orlando Brown was the biggest get at left tackle in the offseason. Lucas, did you happen to hear how many pressures Orlando Brown has allowed? It's the most of any individual left tackle in football this season, 50 pressures. 50 pressures. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head what his contract is. I'm certain that Bengals fans are pissed about it. Mike McGlinchey, who is playing offensive line in Denver, who is as close to the definition of mid or middling as you could find for an offensive lineman. He was at the top of the market this year, and that's what a middling offensive lineman will garner on the open market because people are desperate, just as you're desperate. Drafting the offensive line, Detroit, hell, here, when they had it, when they were having success. They got lucky. I mean, they didn't get lucky with Ben Jones. I think Ben would have probably gone back to the Texans if they'd made more of an effort to keep him. But they got Ben Jones. They drafted well around Ben Jones and Taylor Lewan, who was already on the roster, and they organically found ways to rebuild that offensive line. Now, they let it go to hell, and then they all of a sudden were chasing it in free agency in the draft, and they botched it. Drafting the offensive line is the thing that makes the most sense.
That's why you need growth and a year 2 jump from Jalen Duncan at one of the tackle spots.
Or just even Lucas as a swing.
Yeah.
Give me a swing tackle I can trust. Find a role. It doesn't have to be one of the starting 5, but it has to be one of the top 8. More phone calls coming up next before we update the polls and get you over to Blaine and Mickey. I'm Buck Rising, 104.5 The Zone. All right, we got some phone calls. Let's get to them. Last call for them before Blaine and Mickey. And, of course, you can call in to get in line for Blaine and Mickey. You're welcome to do that as well. Club line gets long for Blaine and Mickey, I feel like. A lot of people want to hear the Hitman's thoughts and certainly Mickey's musings from time to time. If it's not moneymakers, I think he was 0 on his moneymakers this week, as was I. I bet Will Levis, or I gave people a bet. Will Levis, 1.5 touchdowns. 1.5 touchdown passes in that game against the Texans. I got ahead of myself. He's only done it twice, more than 1 touchdown passing in a game. Thought it might be Sunday. Was not. Chris is in Thompson Station next. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, man? This year. I'm only doing this because I'm petty and I want to see drama next year. I'm hoping they put Malik Willis in. The reason why is because I hope he can get in and ball out, have an average 350 yards a game and 4 touchdowns. Just so I can see the drama next year and all through the offseason. That's what I want. I ain't going to let y'all go do your thing.
Thank you. So you're advocating for an off-season quarterback controversy that Malik comes in and makes us all rethink that Levis is the star. Oh, that would be fun.
Wouldn't that be something? Malik just comes in, just slinging it around, throwing on the run.
Chris, I'm with you. I'm not out of pettiness, just because it's a long off season and I'm looking for anything interesting to talk about. I would love for Malik to come in and play just otherworldly football. I would love that. By percentage chance, I think it's unlikely, but it can't happen if you never give him the opportunity. And they've given him opportunities, though they are sparing and behind offensive lines that are the stuff that nightmares are made of. It's not fair what's happened to Malik Willis, and unfortunately the NFL is neither fair or for long, as a lot of people like to say. Z is in Bell Buckle. That'd be the last call of the day. Hey, Z.
Hey, I just want to keep it real simple. Keep the king, draft J.C. Latham from Alabama. You can't run the ball if you can't convert third downs to first downs.
I agree. Wonder if Z... We had a lot of Alabama fans calling in here lately, doesn't it feel like? I don't know if Z is an Alabama fan or not. But Teresa Walker made a good argument for keeping Derrick Henry. Again, the cap space, it's the second most in the league next year. Did you happen to pay attention to what she said about Amy and how she Amy Adams Strunk and how she views this is an opportunity for Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon to kind of really step into these respective roles personnel-wise, and brought up the idea of she's looking forward to seeing what they do with that cap space, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. She's looking forward to seeing what they do with her $86 million.
They're going to have every tool available to them.
Everyone.
To fix this roster. What do we say? The second most cap space in the NFL this offseason. Probably a top 10 draft pick.
As things stand right now, they are 9th. And multiple picks, which, I know people are still sick about the Kevin Byard trade. Although, have you been watching, KB?
I mean, that Eagles defense just...
It all looks out of whack.
Something's going on up there. They're talking about players having more of a say in game planning, and now they're switching up play calling duties. It's weird. It's a weird vibe. We talked about it at the top of the show, but it's a weird vibe right now in Philly.
Well, don't read A.J. Brown's Twitter if you don't want more.
He's back.
Well, no. Eagles fans are back. Now, A.J., I think, is getting his first real taste of what Philadelphia actually is, not how much fun it is to win and go to Super Bowls. Oof.
They're 10-4.
I don't wish that, though. Honestly, I know people like to poke fun at AJ, but I don't wish that on somebody who's got a documented history of struggling with mental health the way that AJ has spoken about before. I do not wish that on him, because that is an unholy level of toxicity that's just going to exist every time he opens up his phone. Pulse?
The Buck Rising Show's almost done. Yeah. We have come to this portion of the program where we update the poll. Yeah.
Settle down, Beavis.
Go ahead, update them, Buck. Buck.
We're gonna score.
Buck.
Buck doesn't update the polls, dummy. You're stupid.
Yeah. Time for a poll update. Hey, how's it going, man?
You said poll.
Yeah. Lucas Panzica. Yeah, are you threatening me? I am the great Cornpolio.
Hey, Lucas, can you update the poll? Lucas, give us the deets, dog.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. What in sports made you say, oh no, over the weekend? Jerry says Will Levis being folded during that sack, definitely an oh no moment.
Yeah.
I think for everybody watching that, you're very relieved that we're talking about does he go, does he not go, that it was an ankle sprain. We don't know the severity of it because it could have been a whole lot worse from the way it looked.
Truly. That's the moment where everybody's stomach drops, right?
Like you're thinking worst case scenario.
And he said that as much as you pointed out when he got to the podium, that he thought it was a much worse situation in real time. How could you not? I mean, he's been trying to avoid that stuff all year long, and there he is in a pile of himself in overtime.
Tyler says, I don't know if you had seen this, Tommy DeVito yelling at the Giants PR team to stop with the Italian bleep after being asked to record a top 5 Sopranos moment. There is credible reporting out of New York that happened. Tommy DeVito called in.
No, that's a fake account.
That's
Lucas.
a fake account?
That's a fake account.
No, the guy's been. Are you sure?
He's got 100-something thousand followers because New York sports fans enjoy his parody. Go look at some of the other tweets on that account. Did you get got?
Damn, I got got. That would have been so funny because I just picture the Giants PR team continuing to lean into it. Like Tommy walks into a room and they're holding like Mario and Luigi hats, and I hear us out.
Listen, what are they? They're 4-9. They're 4-10, 5-9, something like that. They're similar to the Titans. Either way, I would love for that to be true. The thing that is true is Tommy DeVito's agent asking for $20,000 more from a family-owned pizza restaurant.
Yes,
in Morristown, New Jersey. Which, by the way, I used to live outside of Morristown, not flush with cash, Morristown, New Jersey. Great pizza, though.
Tyler in the F&M Bank chat is apologizing for that submission because he also got by that fake report.
That's not real.
Do you care more about developing young players or draft position for the rest of the season? 57% like the draft picks over the development.
So they don't even care about the players that are on the roster. Just give us the new ones. We don't care about the ones we have. Give us the new ones. I get it.
Do you want Will Levis to play through a sprained ankle the next 3 weeks? 85% say no. Protect your future quarterback. 15% say yes, he needs the reps.
Like Mike Vrabel said, if he can reasonably protect himself, he needs to be out there. He needs the reps. He's not going to get it elsewhere until the preseason. There's no way to replicate that stuff in real time, and he's still got a lot to learn. I know it's scary. Football's scary. You just got to live with some of that.
What are you doing with your Titans tickets for the last 2 home games? 55% said see on game day. 45% said not using them.
Well, listen, if 55% of you show up on Christmas Eve to hang out with the rest of us who will be there on our Christmas Eves, then I have a great amount of respect.
Well, hopefully more than 55% of Nissan Stadium is filled.
I don't know.
Should be a nice day. It's going to be a warm Christmas. Do you like warm Christmas?
I am always a proponent of warm weather, especially since last year a freeze cost us an hour of game time, and we all just sat there waiting for the freeze delay, the rare freeze delay without any snow.
I love a warm Christmas.
Yeah, I'm pro. Snow's overrated. You can go to Colorado, you can see the snow, you can leave the snow, and you can come back to the warm weather.
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Blaine and Mickey, they got you covered. They're up next.